Okay, like I said, we're going to isolate, this is 5, 5. We're going to isolate the expression. Exponentials and logs are inverses. We already said this. And, excuse me, E and ln are inverses. So the first thing you do is you figure out, okay, what am I starting with? What are you starting with? Exponentials. What's the opposite of exponential? Log. We're going to take the log of both sides. Everybody with me? We're going to take the log of both sides. So I'm going to say log 3 x plus 2 equals log 7. Once you take the log of both sides, that exponent comes down. So it's just like here. So now we're going to get our x all by itself. If I want to get x by itself, what do I do first? Divide both sides by what?
3.
Not just 3. Log 3. That's a number. We don't know what it is, but it's a number. So I have x plus 2 equals. Now, you can do this part in your calculator, or you can wait. You can do it at the end. But if you do this in your calculator, on your calculator, hit log 7. Not ln, hit log 7 divided by log 3. And tell me what you get, like 4 decimal places.
1.7712.
Okay. 1.7712. All right, that's okay. And then what's the last thing I do to get x by itself? Subtract 2. So x is about, it's not going to be a perfect number, but what's 1.7712 minus 2?
Negative 0.2288.
Okay, that's it. The only thing that's new here is the first step of what to do to get either the exponential or the log to cancel out. And then you just solve it like you would any normal equation. So if we have something like this, I have E, right? I see an E. What do I think of when I see E?
Natural.
Okay, what's the opposite of E, guys? ln. Everybody with me? Okay, so you want to isolate the E. I want to get that E all by itself. So what do I do first? Divide both sides by 8. You guys agree with that? So divide both sides by 8. So I have E to the 2x equals, give me about 4 decimal places if it need be.
Oh, it's 5/2.
Okay, what's that as the decimal? Because look, it wants it rounded to 4 decimal places. So 2.5. Okay, so 2.5. Now here's the part where you guys have to use some trig stuff. What did you tell me the opposite of E was? ln, right? If this was E to the 4th power, you would take the 4th root of both sides. So if ln is the opposite of E, you're going to take the ln of both sides. What you do to one side, you do to the other. What happens with E to the ln on the left-hand side? It cancels out. So you're just left with 2x equals. In your calculator, guys, hit the button that says ln and put 2.5.
0.9163.
Something like that. And then what's my last step? Divide it by 2. All of these you're going to round to probably 4 decimal places. So what's 0.9163 divided by 2?
0.4581.
Guys, when I come out with an answer that says x equals, what can I do with it to make sure that I'm right? You could plug it back in. You could, in your calculator, you guys did this right now to check, you could put E. So you would just, in your calculator, do exactly like this. Try it. Hit 8, E, and then the little exponent thing will come up. Make sure the 2 and the 0.4581 are in parentheses together. What do you get when you do that?
19.999.
19.999. Is that real close to 20?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to get exact answers when you do this? No, because we're rounding all the way through, but it should be close. It's a good way to check. All right, look at this one. What does this kind of look like? This is just a fancy factoring problem. I could rewrite this as x squared minus x minus 6. Do you guys know how to factor that? Okay, if I factor that, what are the factors of negative 6 that multiply to give me negative 6 but add to give me negative 1?
-3 and +2.
x minus 3, x plus 2. Agreed?
Yeah.
So before I go and solve this, I'm just going to replace both of my x's with an e to the x. So e to the x minus 3, e to the x plus 2. Because, guys, think about it. If you were to FOIL this back out, I would multiply e times e, right? Yes or no? So when I say x times x, if I am multiplying the same base, what do you do to the exponents? Do you square them or do you add them? Add them. So I'd have 1x plus 1x is 2x. That's where that comes from. Now you just solve this. I'm going to have two answers. Watch. E to the x minus 3 equals 0. E to the x plus 2 equals 0. Well, I'm trying to get the e by itself. So what do I do?
Natural log.
Not natural log yet. Hold on. What do we do?
Oh,
Add 3. So I have e to the x equals 3. How do I get just x? I don't want that e there anymore. What's the opposite of e?
natural log.
ln. So if I take the ln of one side, I have to do it where?
The other side.
On the other side. So this cancels out, and I have x equals. What's the natural log of 3? ln 3.
1.0986.
Okay? And then on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. How do I get e to the x by itself? Subtract 2. So I have e to the x equals negative 2. What's the opposite of e? ln. If I take the ln of one side, I have to take the ln of the other. So x equals, what's the natural log of negative 2?
No solution.
What does it say in your calculator? Everybody do it.
Error.
Yep. What happens? What happens? What happens?
You can take it of a negative number.
Correct. There's no solution here. You guys, you cannot take the log or natural log of a negative number. So how many answers do you have here?
1.
Just one. Could you possibly have had 2?
Possible.
Yes. Could you possibly have had none?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Look at this one. You guys know how to do all of this. Look at this one. Is this a quadratic? Yes or no? Kinda-ish, yeah? Because I see a squared. But is it one of those factoring ones? Because is it e to the 2x and then e to the x?
It passages here.
Look at this term here. And look at this term here. Do they have anything in common?
E to the x.
What do they both have in common?
E to the x.
E to the x. Good. Guys, this stuff isn't easy, so if you're not paying attention, you're going to be up creek here.
Right.
E to the x. If I divide out an e to the x, Borja, do you want me to put you on blast? Okay. I'm just letting you know, so when we go to do something and you guys are like, I don't know how to do this, I'm going to be like, okay, well, whatever. All right, guys, watch what happens. If I take out that e to the x, what am I left with? 3x plus what? Equals? Okay.
It has no solutions here.
Can I take something else out?
X.
Can I take out an x? Yes or no? So I can take out an e to the x. I can take out an x, and then I'm left with, can I rewrite this as x plus 3? You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
I just flipped the order. Now, what do you do with each little piece?
Separate them.
Separate them and set them equal to what?
0.
So I have e to the x equals 0, x equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. What are two of my answers right away that I see?
0.
X equals 0 and,
X equals negative 3.
yep. How do I get this answer?
Take the natural log.
Take the natural log. What is the natural log, guys, of 0?
0. Oh, error.
What does it say? Natural log is 0. Nunez, natural log is 0. What does it say? Do it in your calculator. Error. You You guys are going to get error messages on your tests when you go to do these. It's not that the problem is wrong. It's not that you did something wrong. But the natural log and logs of 0 and negative numbers is new solution. So make sure you pay attention to that. You're going to see all sorts of different problems like this. That's why I gave you guys this to do, and we're going to practice. All right, this is the same thing I told you at the beginning. Natural logs and or inverses, exponential, and logs are inverses. So when you get something like this, I see ln x equals 8. Can I do anything to get the natural log of x by itself, or is it already by itself?
Take the E.
Is there anything being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided?
No.
No. So what is the opposite of ln? E. So I'm going to say e. When I put the big base of e, everything else goes into the exponent. What you do to one side, you do where? So I would have e to the what? 8th power. You guys see that? Now that I have e, big E, and a little ln, what happens to those two things? They cancel out. So x equals, guys, what is e to the 8th power in your calculator?
2980.
Hold on one sec. What's e to the 8th power? Put it in your calculator. E to the 8th. What are y'all getting? $2,000. What? 900. 926. 96. Okay. You guys are going to get crazy answers. How could I check this? Plug it in. In your calculator right now, hit ln and then put 2980.96. There you go. So you can check all of these. Real simple to do. It helps you out a little bit. How in the world are we going to do this? God bless you. First thing you need to do, what are we starting off with? Log. What is the opposite of log? Exponential. All right, when we change things to exponential, the little 2 becomes what? Big 2. So I'm going to write a big 2, and then everything goes up into the exponent. So it's log 2 of 25 minus x equals. If I did a big 2 on the left-hand side, then what do I do to the right-hand side? A big 2. And it goes to what power? The third. Do you see how they look symmetrical? What you do to the left-hand side, you do to the right. On the left-hand side, if you have 2 log 2, what happens to that? It cancels out. So you're left with 25 minus x equals, what's 2 to the third power? 8. Can I solve this? What do I do?
Subtract 20.
Minus 25. So I have negative x equals, what's 8 minus 25?
-17.
Negative 17. So what's my answer? X equals 17.
Could you also solve it by when we switch, like, you know, how we switch things from exponential to log? So could we, like, make.
If you see that better, that's fine. Now, guys, if I check this, watch. If I put 17 right here, what's 25 minus 17? So if I had log 2 of 8, does that equal 3? Well, 2 to what power gives you 3? I'm sorry, 2 to... If I were to rewrite this in exponential, right? Little 2 would become big, and then what happens with the 3 and the 8? They switch. Is that a true statement? Yes. You can check all of these if you so desire. All right, lots of stuff going on here. What do you see? What's the first thing you see? What word? Log. Okay, this is what I suggest you do, guys. I have log 2x. That 2 is stuck with the x. It's in between the log. You can't do anything with it. But is the log completely by itself?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Everybody look. Is the log all by itself on the left-hand side of the equal sign? No. So what do I have to do first? Okay, how do I do that? Subtract 4. Agreed. So I have 3 log 2x equals 12, right? And then Alexis tells me to do what? Perfect. Divide by 3. So I have log 2x equals 4. Still on the early release bell. Hold on a second. This isn't meant to be tricky, but on all the other ones, it had a little number, right? Like log base 2, log base 4. And then we made the little number the big number. What is the log base if you don't see a number?
10.
It's 10, right? Please disregard
Please
the no.
disregard the us bell. Thank you.
It's always log base 10. So, what's the opposite, guys, of log? Exponential. It's the opposite of log, everybody. Exponential. So I'm going to write a big 10. And then what happens to everything else? It goes up in the exponent. If I write a big 10 and everything goes in the exponent on the left-hand side, what do I do on the right? A big 10 and everything goes into the exponent. Good. So now what happens with 10 log 10? Cancels out. So you have 2x equals what? 10,000?
Yeah.
Divide both sides by 2. So x equals.
5,000.
What can I do with that x?
Plug it back in.
Plug it back in. Every single time you can plug it back in. Are you going to get the exact answer every time? No. Because a lot of times we're doing some rounding, but you should get really, really, really close. Look at this problem. How's this problem a little different? There's 2 logs. Good. Are there 2 logs on both sides?
No.
No. All right. Well, first of all, when I see log, I think what as the opposite? Exponential. What is the log base here since I don't see a little number? 10. Okay, I'm going to write it in just so I remember. Now, we learned something on our last quiz, and you guys honestly did a really great job with this. If I have 2 logs and they both have the same base and they're pulled apart, can I smush them back together?
Yes.
Yes. How could I rewrite this with just using log base 10 one time?
So log
I could write log 10. What's being done between these 2 logs?
multiply.
What's being done in the problem?
Oh,
Addition. Well, when I smush stuff back together, addition becomes
multiplication.
multiplication. Do you guys agree? I can write this as x plus 2 times x minus 1
Yeah.
equals 1. Now that we can condense it, smush it back together, because they have the same log, we're just going to write it so it looks a little cleaner. Now we can finish this problem. What did you guys tell me was the opposite of logs?
Exponential.
Exponential. So my little 10 is going to become what? The big 10. So if it becomes the big 10 on the left-hand side and everything goes up into the exponent, what happens on the right-hand side? A big 10 and everything goes where? Into the exponent. So on the left-hand side, what happens with 10 log 10? Crosses out, so you're left with x plus 2, x minus 1 equals, what's 10 to the first power? 10. Now this is just a factoring problem, guys. Boil it. X times x is
X squared.
x times negative 1,
Negative
2 times x,
2x.
and then 2 times negative 1.
Negative 2.
Good. And then what do I do with this 10 to move it over here?
Oh, subtract it.
So I could say minus 10 equals 0.
Yep.
Combine like terms. So x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. Can I factor this?
Yes.
What are the factors of negative 12? That multiply to give me negative 12, but add to give me positive 1.
X plus 4, x minus 3.
So x equals negative 4n
Positive.
positive 3. One thing you have to do here. Because what happens, guys, you don't have to do all this in your calculator, but can you take the log of a negative number?
No.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
No.
No. So I got x is negative 4 and positive 3. If I put negative 4 right here, what's negative 4 plus 2?
Negative 2.
So will that work?
No.
No. So this one doesn't work. What about 3? 3 plus 2 is positive, right? Agreed?
Yeah.
All right. If I put a 3 here, 3 minus 1 is positive. We're good. So you have one answer here, just x equals 3. because you cannot take the log or the natural log of a negative number. I'm going to say that a bunch of times. That's going to bite some of you in the rear end because you're not going to check it. Got to check. I got one or two more examples and we're done. Sum of $5,000 is invested at an interest rate of 5% per year. Find the time required for the money to double. The interest is compounded according to the following method. How do we feel? Let's do B first. We'll come back to A when we get back from Av Games. When I see the word continuously, who do I think of? My friend A. Pert. My friend A. Pert. So let's look at what we got. How much did I put in? $5,000. Agreed? And I have my E. What is the interest rate? If the rate, guys, is 5%, a lot of you mess this up on your quiz. What is the decimal equivalent? 0.05. So it's 0.05. What am I looking for?
Time.
The time. I'm looking for something in the exponent. What is this going to be equal to?
10,000.
Where did you get 10,000 from?
Where the money is doubled.
Look, they're asking for the money to be doubled. Do you guys see that? That's why you get 10,000 over here. Oh. Good catch, Belle. All right, so we're going to go back to what we just learned since we just wrote this out. I want to get this E all by itself. So what do I do first?
Divide by 5,000.
Okay, divide both sides by 5,000. So I have E to the 0.05t equals, what's 10,000 divided by 5,000? 2. Now I need to get E to go away because I'm looking for t, which is in my exponent. What is the opposite of E?
Natural log.
Guys, everybody, what is the opposite of E? Natural log. So if I take the natural log of one side, I take the natural log of the other side. So ELN cancels out. You have 0.05t equals, what's the natural log of 2?
0.6931.
6931. You guys agree? And then what do we do?
Divide by 0.05.
Yep, divide both sides by 0.05. And what is the approximate time for continuous? What's 0.6931 divided by 0.05?
13.86.
13.86. So about how many years is that?
14.
You could say about 14 years. There's a lot to remember with how to isolate. Remind me again, logs and what are inverses? Exponentials. E and natural log. You want to get them by themselves and then you solve it like you would any other equation. You guys have to practice this.